Boba Fett has been one of the most popular characters in Star Wars ever since he was introduced. Because of this popularity, there have been dozens and dozens of stories created about Boba Fett over the years. Star Wars writers in both Legends and Canon didn't want to be restricted with what stories they could tell about the character, so both timelines resurrected him from his apparent death in Return of the Jedi. What these writers did with the character after he was brought back to life, however, differs drastically between the two timelines. Let's dive into the similarities and differences of each. Really quick, I want to give a shout out to this commenter for the idea for this video. If there are any Legends versus Canon stories that you would like to see a video about, please leave a suggestion in the comments. In Legends, after Boba Fett fought his way out of the Sarlacc Pit, he was found nearly dead and nursed back to health by fellow bounty hunter Dengar. Fett tried to keep a low profile, being very particular which clients he worked for so that most of the galaxy wouldn't know that he survived the Sarlacc. This became difficult when a bounty hunter named Jodo Kast began wearing Mandalorian armor and using Fett's name to get high-profile jobs. Fett put a stop to this by hiring Kast through a third party to hunt down a target. When Kast reached the target, it turned out to be Boba Fett himself, who killed Kast to maintain his discreet profile. Over the years, Fett continued to work as a bounty hunter, doing several jobs for Gorga the Hutt and even accepting another bounty on Han Solo, this time given by the clone of Emperor Palpatine. It was at this time that Solo learned that his longtime enemy had survived the Sarlacc Pit. Fett failed to capture Solo this time, though it would not be their last encounter. The two would cross paths again and again, and whether it was by Fett's bad luck or Solo's good luck, the rebel hero would always manage to get away. The years eventually caught up to Boba Fett, and he went to Kamino seeking to have a bad leg replaced. When he met Taun We there, she instead enlisted him to kill Fen Shaisa, the leader of Mandalore who had attacked Kamino during the Clone Wars. Fett found and combated Shaisa, mortally wounding him. As he died, Shaisa requested that Fett take over as leader of Mandalore. Boba Fett led the Mandalorian protectors for years after this. When the Yuuzhan Vong invaded the galaxy, they met with him and recruited the Mandalorians to help them with their plans to take over the galaxy. In exchange, Mandalore would be left alone. Fett agreed to these terms, though he secretly fed information about the Vong and their plans to the Republic, acting as a double agent throughout the war. He also agreed to have some of his commandos train planetary militias to defend themselves against the Vong. After the Yuuzhan Vong found out about the ruse, Boba Fett and his Mandalorians continued to help the Republic until the war was finally over. Fett served as ruler of Mandalore well after this, and when his daughter was killed by Jacen Solo, he had a new enemy in the Solo line. He even trained Jaina Solo in his combat knowledge and mentored her so that she would be able to defeat Jacen when the time came. We don't have record of when Boba Fett eventually died in this timeline, but it's assumed he served as a strong and courageous leader until the end of his days. Now let's move on to the canon version of events. In canon, Boba Fett managed to climb out of the Sarlacc Pit and fell unconscious once he did so. His armor was taken by Jawas and he was taken prisoner by Tusken raiders. He eventually earned the trust of the Tuskens and became part of their tribe. When his tribe was killed by members of the Pike Syndicate, he sought to take control of the criminal underworld on Tatooine and prevent more unnecessary bloodshed. He felt that the criminal empire formerly belonging to Jabba the Hutt would be more effective if he could make it emulate his Tusken tribe. He partnered up with Fennec Shand, taking her to get cybernetic repairs after she suffered a potentially fatal blaster wound. Before taking the throne of Tatooine's criminal empire, Boba Fett sought to reclaim his armor, which had ended up in the hands of the Mandalorian Din Djarin. After following Djarin to the planet Tython, Fett came to an agreement with him to get his armor back. Following this, however, the Imperial remnant led by Moff Gideon kidnapped Djarin's adopted child Grogu. Fett felt indebted to Djarin for returning his armor to him and agreed to assist in rescuing Grogu from the Imperials. After Grogu's rescue, Fett and Shand returned to Tatooine, killing Bib Fortuna and taking his place at the seat of the Hutt criminal empire. Fett received tributes from several high-ranking officials on Tatooine, though significantly not from Mok Shaiz, the mayor of Mos Espa. He learned that the mayor had allied himself with the Pike Syndicate, who were using the planet to smuggle spice. This led to a power struggle over the criminal underworld on the planet between Fett and his Gotra and the Pikes. Fett had gathered a number of allies through his promise to rule with respect rather than fear, as the Hutts and the Pikes did. Eventually, Fett and his allies were able to defeat the Pikes and the bounty hunters in their employ, including Fett's former colleague Cad Bane. Tatooine now belonged to Boba Fett, who insisted on his rule being one of mutual respect between he and the citizens of the planet. While the two versions of Boba Fett's journey and redemption after his fall into the Sarlacc Pit are quite different, both tell stories of Boba Fett leaving the profession of bounty hunting in favor of becoming a leader, in Legends ruling Mandalore and in Canon ruling Tatooine. In both timelines, as he becomes a leader, he also becomes a more noble and courageous character, doing what was best for the people he is responsible for rather than what was best for himself. Which version of Boba Fett's story do you prefer? While I think both have their merits, I have to say I prefer the Legends version. To me personally, Fett's more gradual and somewhat reluctant redemption helps his changing character feel more earned. Part of me wishes the canon version would have done more build-up to him becoming a noble leader, making it feel more like character growth rather than a different character altogether. That's just my opinion though, and I'd love to hear yours. Please leave a comment and let me know what you think. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. For another deep dive into Legends vs. Canon, check out this video here.